I do believe we have Walter coming on here very shortly.
Okay, are we ready with Walter Block?
Do we have Walter? Are you with us, Walter?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Well, our second guest tonight is a professor of economics at Loyola University, New Orleans. He's a senior scholar of the Ludwig von Mises Institute. He's the author of hundreds of articles and many books, including the great libertarian classic, Defending the Undefendable, which everyone watching this should read if they haven't already. And he's also involved in something called Jews for Ron Paul. He's part of a group by that name. He has a video on YouTube that you can watch by that name. And so, Walter Block, welcome to our broadcast here tonight.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Sure, and I want to ask you to start, well, why should in addition to all your other attributes I mentioned, you are Jewish, and so why should your fellow Jews join you in supporting Ron Paul in your view?
Well, I think Ron Paul should be supported by my fellow co-religionists because his views are the best for Jews. Jews have been scurrying around all over the place throughout all of our history, staying one step ahead of, and sometimes not one step ahead, but one step behind the bad guys. And what we need, perhaps more than any other community, because we've been picked on so much, is freedom and liberty. And guess who stands for freedom and liberty? I'll give you one guess. It's Ron Paul. It's not any of the three Republican contenders, and it's certainly not Barack Obama. So I think it's clear that Jews, perhaps more than other people, although every person and every group needs liberty and economic freedom and general freedom, perhaps Jews need it even more, given our history. And yet, the Jewish community, I would say probably 95% of it would vote against Ron Paul because they think he's an anti-Semite. And you might ask, why do they think he's an anti-Semite? Because he stepped on the third rail of politics, namely that you must support Israel. And since he wants to cut off all foreign aid for Israel, people say, particularly in the Jewish community, but everywhere else as well, that he is against Israel, and that doesn't sit right with these people. They accuse him of being anti-Semitic. And my own views are the very opposite. I was one of the starters or the creators of this group, Jews for Ron Paul, to counteract this this argument that he's anti-Semitic. I have several reasons for thinking that he's not anti-Semitic. First of all, his two favorite, not only economists, but philosophers are Murray Rothbard and Ludwig von Mises, both Jewish. What kind of anti-Semite has two Jews as his main heroes, his main intellectual and ethical and moral heroes? Not very many. Yes, Ron Paul opposes foreign aid to Israel, but he opposes foreign aid to every country. He's not picking out one country, Israel, and saying, well, you can't get any foreign aid. And the fact of the matter is that if you look at the statistics, the Arab and Muslim countries get double or triple what Israel gets. So if you decrease foreign aid, assuming that foreign aid does some good, if you decrease it to everyone, relatively speaking, you increase the safety of Israel because Ron would decrease more money to Israel's enemies than to Israel itself. Another point is that he who pays the piper calls the tune. When the United States pays Israel billions of dollars, they think they have the right to tell them what to do. For example, the most recent thing is that Barack Obama was saying that the 1967 border should serve as the leaping off point or the starting point for negotiations. Well, who the hell is he to say any of that stuff? Why is it any of his business? The idea that Ron Paul is forever saying is that what is in the best interests of Israel is Israeli sovereignty. And if Obama is in a position to undermine their sovereignty, well, then we have a problem. What's her name? Condoleezza Rice was making Israel postpone its strike against the Syrian nuclear facilities. Again, this is hardly in the Israeli self-interest, and here Ron Paul is on the side of the Israelis. Another instance of this is the no, not the Suez Canal and the Sinai Peninsula. What happened was that in '56, I think it was France, England, and Israel took over the entire Sinai Peninsula, and Eisenhower made Israel give it back. Well, if the Jews were the Jewish state, the Israelis were not so beholden, then Israel would be a lot bigger. So,
well, Walter, let me ask you this. Right now we're hearing in the news that Israel is maybe poised to attack Iran, and we hear a lot about how the U.S. should attack Iran for the sake of defending Israel. What would you say to those people who say, Israel, it's the most progressive or whatever country in the Middle East. We need to defend our ally there, or our friend, or the person who exemplifies our values. What's your response to those people who say we have a responsibility to protect Israel from an attack by Iran?
Well, as Ron Paul says, the Soviet Union had, 30,000 nuclear weapons, and we had roughly the same amount. We had a Cold War, and not one drop of blood was spilled, at least in a nuclear conflagration. As I heard on your program right before I started, Iran has not attacked anyone in 200 years. The Iraq-Iran war was an attack on Iran by Iraq, namely Iraq, in the words of the schoolyard, Iraq started up. Iraq was the bully. Iran is a defensive country. Yes, what's his name? Ahmadinejad is a little weird, but not suicidal. I mean, Israel's got 200 or 300 nuclear weapons, and if Iran ever did anything, that would be the end of Iran. So I don't see this as an attack, as a weakness of Israel. I don't see the Iranian threat the way some warmongers see it, some chicken hawks. By the way, Ron Paul is the only contender who has served in the military. He is the one who gets more donations from the military than all four of the other people, 3 Republicans and Obama. So I think that, when they say, well, the U.S. will be the guarantor of Israeli defense, well, ask the South Vietnamese about what kind of a guarantee the U.S. provides.
Well, Walter, if Israel can defend itself, why do you think so many people in the U.S. are so concerned about the U.S. government doing things on Israel's behalf against Iran and in the Middle East?
Well, speaking as a member of the Jewish community, we want Israel to be safe. It's sort of a haven for Jews from the Holocaust. And, they want to pull out all the stops. And they think that the best way to defend Israel is to make it a client state of the United States. It's not that Ron Paul doesn't want to defend Israel. It's not that Ron Paul doesn't want to see Israel safe. It's rather that Ron Paul has a different means of preserving the safety of Israel. And his means is very different. His means is peace.
What do you...
I think so. It's a different means toward the same end. So people say, well, since Ron Paul doesn't favor this means of helping Israel, he's against helping Israel. No, he favors helping Israel and all countries. And the best way to help countries is peace. And the way to have peace is not to start bombing people who have not first initiated any violence against anyone else. Iran has not attacked Israel.
Walter, I know that, I'm not sure that you're aware, we're kind of we're ultimately the antithesis of, mainstream media. We want to get the truth out, but I'm not sure if you know, in May of 2011, Israel's prime minister had come here and spoke and indicated what a foreign policy for Israel that essentially mirrors Ron Paul's, which is saying they don't want our money, they don't want our, our soldiers, they don't want our defense. Why do you think that the mainstream media and our government doesn't really express the wishes of the Prime Minister of Israel and really kind of reflecting what they're asking of us, as Ron Paul does? Why do you think that there's this disconnect that the American people don't hear really what the Prime Minister is asking of us?
Yes, Bibi Netanyahu gave a speech, I think it was to Congress, where he said, we don't need your democracy. We've already got our own. We don't need economic development. We've got plenty of our own, and we don't need you to protect us. We can protect ourselves. Why is it that the mainstream media denigrates this or won't talk about this? Well, I guess the mainstream media is not very open to liberty, not very open to peace. They're a bunch of warmongers. They can't be trusted. We see this over and over again with the fact that they ignore the fact that the soldiers are supporting Ron Paul. They ignore Ron Paul. So the question you're asking is, why does the mainstream media make a mistake here? My answer is, well, they make a mistake everywhere. And the real question is, when are they ever going to get it right? Well, they get it wrong here, here, and here. Why shouldn't they get it wrong in the case of Israel? Because, they're just, they're not with it. They're not intelligent. They're picked mainly for their good looks or their beautiful voices or something like that. So,
are you suggesting that we are a good-looking panel here, Walter?
Guys are a lot prettier than they are, but they're only selected for that, whereas you people are obviously selected for your adherence to liberty and freedom and economic rationality, whereas they're not selected for that. So I think that's why they err all over the place.
Well, Walter, do you have any thoughts on what Ron Paul could do to get his message out better to your co-religionists?
Well, I think one thing that Ron Paul could do to get his message out better is whenever people interrupt him, when they ask him a question and then he starts to answer and then they interrupt him, he should say something like, "Can I get a word in here? Can I please finish my sentence?" or something like that. And I've written 4 or 5 essays on LouRockwell.com probing, how can Ron better get out his message? Now, you're asking how can he better get out his message to the Jewish community? If he can't get out his message because he keeps getting interrupted, he can't get out his message to the Jewish community or anyone else. But he's too much of a gentleman to do that. I don't know. I wish he were less of a gentleman sometimes. And would tell these people, look, do you want me to answer the question or not? Or, something like that. Namely, get off the point. Instead of talking about the substance, talk about the interview.
Well, he is a gentleman, and I think, of course, that enhances his credibility greatly, but he does need to be able to jump in there, as you say. For our last few minutes here when we wrap up, I'd like to cover a slightly different territory. You're known, of course, as a great teacher of libertarianism and of liberty, spreading these ideas as you have to so many students over the years. So after people go and they vote for Ron Paul, they've cast their vote, they've persuaded their friends to vote, what do you say is the next step for those people? What should they be doing to advance liberty?
Well, I guess I'm a professor. I can never answer a direct question, so I have to get around it. And what you're really asking is how can we best promote liberty? And I would say there are very many different ways of doing it. There's think tanks. There's what I've been doing as a professor, trying to encourage students in writing. There's, seasteading. There's that group in New Hampshire, what do they call it? The State Project, Free State Project.
Free State Project, sure.
There are many, many paths toward liberty. And I think as an Austrian, I'm sort of subjective on this. Each one should pick his or her own path.
So there are many fronts to fight on, and we should just pick one and go with it, basically. I'm being told here, Walter, I'm sorry we have to do this. I'd like to just keep talking for hours, but we have to go. We have to go to our next segment. So thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Everyone should read Walter's articles on LouRockwell.com. Go to his website. There's so much more out there. Walter Block, thanks again for being with us.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks, Walter.